Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's January 11th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You got British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. Take a look at some of the Arctic air starting to spill off here, southeast Alaska and some of the BC coastline here. It's going to be bringing some of that moisture back around here. We're going to have some of this light shower activity ongoing through the day today and through tonight with some of that Arctic air leaking out here, and then the temperatures are going to drop below freezing. So what does fall, even if it's just kind of, a mix of rain and snow here or just some light snow, it should refreeze as we go on in through the overnight hours tonight. And then we're going to be dealing with some of the specific moisture slamming into probably Oregon here, maybe some of southwest Washington. Models are coming into a better agreement here with the snow cutoff being somewhere north of the Portland metro. We'll take a look at that. Pretty significant snowstorm developing for some portions of northwest Oregon here with some gusty east winds also at the same time, with even some blizzard conditions across some of the gorge and additional snowfall amounts across the Cascades, especially the Oregon Cascades. Another round of heavy snowfall incoming here, and some very cold conditions east of the Cascades as well, with some gusty winds, some low wind chills. And we'll take a look at that as we go through the video here this morning. Take a look at the pressure gradient developing here. You can see that Arctic high across in the interior of BC here, and lower pressure out towards western Washington and southwest BC. So we're going to be starting those outflow winds across the Fraser River Valley here, Okanagan River Valley, and some of the Purcell Trench out here. And this Arctic air mass will start to make its way out as we go through tonight. And this is taking a look at the sneaky winter hazards here. Flash freeze. This is the Seattle National Weather Service talking about this. So whatever is on the ground is probably going to freeze overnight into tomorrow morning. So watch out for those slick conditions here. And if the snow lovers are really lucky, you might get a little coating of snowfall as we go through the overnight hours tonight as well. And of course, earlier across the northwest interior and some of southwest BC. I also wanted to point this out as well. We were watching this system here, and this came through a couple days ago, and it brought some nice amounts, mainly north of the Portland metro there. Pretty heavy snow amounts, actually. Some areas getting up towards 7 inches, a lot of areas with 4+, and that was that initial system there. So, northwest Oregon here is really going to be the winners here with these systems rolling through, as we have winter storm watches up, and I'll show you those here in a moment. Actually, starting now, you can see it does include the Portland metro all the way down, even including Eugene right now, but it's going to be a little bit more unclear as to how much snow is going to fall down there. However, Salem and Portland looks like a pretty good snow incoming here. Some of this could be heavy, even out towards some of the coastal areas as well. And maybe even a little bit of freezing rain out there mentioned by the National Weather Service also, especially back in the valleys as we get this system launching into the west coast of Oregon. And this is looking at that winter storm watch. It remains in effect from Friday afternoon through late Saturday night. And this is for the coastal areas here. It says accumulations of a dusting up to 4 inches and ice accumulations around 1/4 of an inch possible. Winds could gust as high as 45 miles per hour, and you can see the North Oregon coast. It does include there. Now, this is interior across Portland metro. Heavy snow is possible. Snow accumulation 1 to 8 inches. Winds could gust as high as 45. Greater Portland metro area, Washington, Greater Vancouver area also. And there's also going to be some very gusty winds coming through as we go through Saturday through the gorge. Now, taking a look up towards Whatcom County, some very cold wind chills. Look at this, as low as 20 below zero for some of Bellingham out there. And this is probably going to extend out across some of the San Juan Islands also. And you can see some of these frostbite conditions could occur in as little as 30 minutes on exposed skin. Now, this is for east here, Pendleton, Oregon, talking about winter storm warnings. You can see all the details here, heavy snow, gusty winds, and Spokane talking about the potential for snow squalls. Whiteout conditions can rapidly approach, and possible flash freeze on the roads. And you kind of see what happens here when we get one of those snow squalls over the area. This was issued this morning by the National Weather Service Spokane, and just brutal conditions across some of the Idaho Panhandle and through western Montana, especially east of the Rockies. You can see the extreme conditions outlined here, and the Arctic front is just going to come ripping through there. Rapid temperature drops, dangerous wind chills behind the frontal system. And here we go looking at the GFS. This is hot off the presses. So as we go through the morning here, there's going to be some of these showers going on before that Arctic air mass gets in here. So it's going to kind of wet the ground. It could be mixed with snow, especially some of the higher terrain here. And then as we go through tonight, we're going to get that transition, and some precip could still be occurring across some areas of western Washington. So that could freeze to the roadways out there. Maybe even a little bit of coating of snowfall as this Arctic front maybe gets hung up across some of the central or southern Puget Sound here. And you can see the ongoing precipitation precipitation continuing across the Oregon Cascades. And then the next slug of moisture comes in off the ocean into western Oregon as we go through this afternoon, again tonight. That's why the winter storm watch is in effect, and that could get upgraded here either to a winter storm warning or a winter weather advisory as we get closer. And then you'll see that next slug here that moves into southwest Washington as well, precariously close to places like Olympia and Tacoma here. I mean, there's some concern about this very juicy air mass here throwing some of this moisture a bit further north as it interacts with this Arctic air as well. So that's something that we're going to be watching here as we go through Friday night into Saturday morning. How far north is that precipitation shield going to spread? Right now, the GFS and the European don't give Seattle much of a chance here. And of course, that's lesser amounts across this southwest BC area there. But you can see this moisture slug moving across some of eastern Oregon as well, clipping southern Washington as we go in through Sunday morning. And then we get a break for the precipitation for a while as you can see that Arctic front sag east of the Rockies there. Now, if you guys want a nice Fordham Home Weather Station to record all this crazy weather we get, click on that link down below. I wish I had a station like this when I was a child. Stores all the data for you in the cloud, no batteries, highly recommended. Now, taking a closer look at things here, we've got the European as of last night versus the GFS. And so we're going to scroll through today a little bit here, and you can kind of see that it does show a little bit of snow accumulating. It's going to kind of be a slushy, wet mix down to the surface and the sea level areas here as we go through today. But you can see it does show some of that towards the Seattle Metro even a little bit as well. So that could be flash freezing as we go through tonight and into tomorrow morning as the temperatures drop below freezing. Then we head off in towards Saturday morning. You can see the GFS start to snow across some of Portland Metro area there, and even the European gets on the act there by the time we get in towards the day Saturday. So you can see some pretty hefty amounts on the GFS, depending on just how far this snow shield goes back northward. You can see a pretty fine line there, and the European is definitely further south across mostly extreme southwest Washington and the Portland Metro here as we go on in through Saturday night. Now, taking a look at the actual 3-hour precipitation total on the European versus the actual temperatures here. So let's scroll through this, and you can see as we're looking here on in through today, you notice that temperature doesn't drop below freezing for places like Bellingham yet. But then as we go through the morning hours, you can kind of see early afternoon, it starts to drop down into the upper 20s here for some of Bellingham. And then you can see some of this convergent zone activity right across some of maybe the Everett area and Whidbey Island and trying to drop down. And you can kind of see how the precipitation is tailing off as those temperatures start to drop below freezing here. You can see Seattle goes about freezing here about what? That's about 5 p.m. here at Pacific Standard Time. And you can see a little bit of precip still ongoing with some of that Arctic air moving down. So it could create a slick coating that would freeze. And you can see we drop down into the 20s by the time we get towards the midnight hour. And then you can see that precipitation continuing across some Portland here as well. And you can kind of see what semblance of that Arctic front there is sagging south across southern Washington. Then you can see we've got cold air in place, and then the Pacific storm starts to march in here on the European, and then kind of another slug here as we go through the day Saturday that tries to ride up towards some of southwest Washington as well. And I mean, it's still in the realm of possibility. Some of this could reach up towards Olympia or Tacoma or Seattle, but right now the models are just not showing it. However, there is some pause here just because a juicy system like that moving into an Arctic air mass tends to spread precipitation a little bit further north. But anyway, look at some of the very cold temperatures in place across the Portland Metro as the snow is falling and up across southwest BC. Some dangerously cold wind chills are going to be in place. Eastern Washington and the higher terrain also, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. But I also wanted to show you this threat because we're going to have some gusty east winds coming through the Stampede Gap and some of the gorge areas, and some of that's going to be while the snow is flying there. So you could even get some whiteout conditions across some of the gorge going eastbound out of Portland through the Washington-Oregon border there, that sea level gap between eastern Washington, Oregon, and the west side. So let's put this into motion. And what I want you to notice here on the NAM3 cam is that high pressure dropping down east of the Cascades here. Look at that high pressure getting put in place here. And we're really going to tighten up this gradient. Then you can see the wind starting to gust there through the gorge and the Stampede Gap here as we go through very late Friday night into Saturday morning. Look at some of these intense gusts coming through the gorge and the Stampede Gap there also. And you can see why, because of that Arctic air sagging south into eastern Washington there. Yeah, and that's a pretty tight pressure gradient there. So interesting interesting stuff there. And you can see some of those east winds ripping out towards maybe Enumclaw and the North Bend areas out there. And the Fraser River outflow is going to be going during this time for the same reason, that high pressure back behind the mountain ranges there. But yeah, pretty impressive stuff here coming across gorge. And some of that shows it coming out over the Portland Metro as well, as this offshore flow will really be getting going here as we go through the day Saturday. Now, taking a look at the wind chills coming up here. So look as we go on in through, this is going on in through the day today, by this afternoon. Pretty chilly temperatures out there. At least this is what's going to feel like. But look at it as we go on in through Friday morning. Look at some of these wind chills below zero across some of the interior areas here, getting down maybe into the teens for Seattle, eventually dropping down pretty low across Portland. Then we go on in through Saturday morning here, and still very cold temperatures out there. I mean, times that Spokane could be getting down towards -30 wind chill factors, and some of these are showing up below zero for some of the Seattle Metro and the Portland Metro also. This is down towards Oregon. Let's see what it has to say down there. If we put this into motion, you'll see that clearly changes that Arctic air sag south, and you can see that east wind moving through the gorge there out over the Portland Metro, allowing that Arctic air to try to spill down into the Willamette Valley as well. And you can see those very chilly wind chills again east of the Cascades also. And I want to show you across some of Idaho and Montana as well. Look at what is incoming here, folks. Just some dangerous cold. You see Great Falls. Look at that. -39 here on the wind chill factors. You can see Butte, Bozeman, Billings, Helena is going to be in the action, Kalispell, Missoula out there as well, and across the higher terrain of Idaho especially. And look at Miles City out here. It's just some ridiculous wind chills with this Arctic air mass. Now, here's looking at 700 millibars, about 10,000 feet. We're looking at relative humidity here, and you can kind of see why this gives it's not a slam dunk, just how far this is going to move north, but you can see this moist system kind of right in here, and it wouldn't take much of an error to really include more of Centralia, Olympia, and Tacoma. If that just tracks a little bit further north, there's still time for it to do so. So we're still kind of watching that, but right now it looks like Northwest Oregon and some of Southwest Washington is going to be the winner with this winter storm that moved through Friday night on in through Saturday. This is Seattle, Tacoma. This would be with that Arctic passage here. You can kind of see a lot of the ensemble members do drop a little bit of moisture here, so that could be dangerous as it refreezes tonight on in through tomorrow morning. And you can see the cold air, very strong agreement that it is incoming here, virtual lock at this point. You see it's very low temperatures. By the time we get to Saturday morning, perhaps some teens and maybe even some lower teens showing up, and especially in the surrounding areas outside of the Seattle Metro. Excuse me. Now, taking a look at Vancouver International, something similar here as well. Again, bringing out a little bit of moisture with that Arctic air's arrival, but not showing any chance of that system moving across Oregon there, moving up into southwest BC, at least on the European model. And you can see the very chilly temperatures and starting to moderate a bit here as we get on into Tuesday and Wednesday. Bellingham, some single digits are incoming here as we go through the day Friday and on and through Saturday morning. This is Bellingham also kind of looking at precipitation potential as we go through today and into the afternoon hours here, ringing out a little bit with that Arctic front. And this is Yakima. Check it out. There's also some ensemble members showing below zero here as we go on into Saturday morning showing up here. So yeah, very cold air is definitely incoming, and some snowfall potential here as well as we go through Friday. This is Cut Bank, Montana. Just wanted to kind of show you this. Look at all these ensemble members, -30 or colder there across some of Montana. Helena getting in the action there as well. So if you're headed eastbound out into Montana, prepare for these just absolutely bitter cold temperatures. Seattle, Tacoma, the GFS still has 1, 2, 3, showing some of the snow potentially getting up towards Seattle here. And there's that Arctic front there trying to wring out a little moisture as it passes. Portland, of course, much better odds for some significant snowfall here as we go on in through the day Saturday. And of course, excuse me, still getting over my cold a little bit here. On the GFS here, definitely much more robust with the snow totals here across Portland International Airport here. Virtually all the ensemble members right now showing measurable snowfall. And this is for the Cascade Locks. Check it out. This is a westerly wind here, and then we reverse the flow as the Arctic air comes down east of the Cascades and really rushes out through that Columbia Gorge on the Washington-Oregon border. And this is looking at the Cascade Locks. You can see the snow that would be occurring during this time as well. So pretty dramatic winter conditions there across some of northern Oregon on through northwest Oregon and, of course, eastern Oregon as well. Now, looking at the European 100-meter wind speeds, I want to show you the timing of some of these winds. You can see that Fraser River outflow, again, starts at some point early afternoon today, and you can kind of see the north winds pushing down the sound here. And then as we go on in through Saturday morning is when these east winds really get ripping, and you can see that outflow all the way off the coastline here as well. And then you can see that system move into the coastline here, and especially as we go on in through Saturday night into very early Sunday morning as that treks across Oregon there. Now, looking at Salem, so the GFS also painting a snowy picture down into some of the Willamette Valley here as well. Virtually, almost every single ensemble member has a pretty significant snowfall for Salem, according to the GFS. And also, off into the future here, we do have the potential for a pattern change coming up. You can see the 8 to 14 day has much of the west above normal temperatures here. So this goes through January 24th, and the precipitation above average to the same time frame there. But yeah, interesting stuff here. I have to go to work today and tomorrow, and then I'll be off Saturday, but I'll still do my normal briefings tomorrow and the next day here. Right now, it does look like that storm system is going to target northwest Oregon, southwest Washington potentially, and really the Oregon Cascades. But you really got to pay attention here to some of that moisture freezing up overnight tonight. That's probably the biggest threat for western Washington, along with the very cold temperatures. It's going to be very hard on, for example, the homeless population, or pets that are being left outdoors, or any kind of sensitive plants, or just people that are not paying attention out there. And you might get some frostbite potential here with some of those wind chills, and even colder east of the mountains. And if you're traveling off east through Idaho and Montana, or if you're across some of eastern British Columbia, you don't need me to tell you how just bone-chilling cold it can get out there, and it is going to come this round as well. But anyway, well, I know the snow lovers are still holding out for any last-minute hope there. This storm system trends a little bit north. The European actually bounced a little bit north there last night with some of that precipitation here. And there's always the chance, so we'll continue to try to keep hope alive here, but for maybe a little bit of snow in Seattle as we go through the day Saturday. We'll see how that turns out. It'll be kind of a nowcast situation. Also, we'll be watching the Doppler radar with that snow that moves in on Friday, tomorrow, and see just how far north that can extend. But yeah, it's always fun to look at the infrared satellite imagery here as well. You can see the very cold temperatures that are kind of reserved usually for the coldest cloud tops, but the surface across Western Canada here is just so extremely cold that it shows up as blues also. You can kind of see that Arctic air seeping off of Western BC here right there. And for snow lovers' sakes, maybe they'll also, fire up enough of these snow showers here to bring some measurable snow across some of southwest BC with that Arctic frontal passage. But anyway, rambling on a bit here. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I'll be doing another update tomorrow morning, and I'll probably be updated on Twitter as well. If you guys don't follow me, I'm Seattle Weather Guy on Twitter, and you can see any updates that I may have today. But anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. Be prepared for that cold, and we'll do this again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.